My wife is alright. Submitted by Cautious Creative. My wife is alright. I don't know why everyone keeps asking. Sure, the cancer came on suddenly and aggressively, but she has had an amazing team of doctors who have done everything they can. That's a direct quote, too. Her main doctor, Dr. Andrews, told me so himself. When I asked to take her home to let her finish recovering from all her treatments, they seemed hesitant. I'm sure they would have loved to be able to bill us for the rest of her recovery time spent in the hospital. But what she really needed was just to come home and recuperate, so they eventually agreed. The first night we got home, she was especially quiet. It must have been really strange for her to see the house again after so many months away. I helped her get comfortable in bed and decided to turn in myself. It had been so long since I was able to hold her as we drifted off to sleep. It's the most peace either of us had felt in so long. I woke up before her in the morning and began to make a big Saturday morning breakfast. I knew her appetite would be small still, but I figured she'd appreciate the gesture. When I was finished, I went to her room and carried her to the table. After spending so much time lying sick in a bed, her muscles had atrophied. While we ate, I brought up the idea of having a physical therapist come to help her regain her mobility. She stared at her plate, not saying a word. I could tell I had hurt her feelings, pointing out how illness had changed her once strong body to mere flesh and bones. I tried to redirect the conversation, but she wasn't hungry anymore. I took her back to our room so she could rest a while. The next few months were hard on us. We tried to readjust to living together, but it wasn't as easy as it had been before. I still had to work my 9 to 5, and she insisted on going to bed as soon as I got home. Honestly, I was starting to get a little pissed off. I was doing everything under the sun for her, and she couldn't humor me with just a little attention when I got home? I figured maybe she was depressed, being in our house, remembering our old lives together. Our son was across the country now, too, studying at college. His semester break was only a week or so away, so I called him up and asked if he would be willing to come visit for a while, rather than stay at his apartment as he had planned. He was more excited about the idea than I had thought. He hadn't been home since the week his mother left the hospital, and I knew they missed each other terribly. They've always been so close. The day finally arrived, and I went to the airport to pick him up. We chatted the whole way home about his classes, friends, and some new girl he was seeing. We were so deep in conversation I almost missed our road, and then almost missed our driveway a few moments later. As we approached the house, my son began to act strangely. He claimed he could smell a dead animal somewhere, possibly under the porch. I couldn't figure out what he was talking about. When I opened the front door, he began to gag. "Dad, seriously, it smells like something died. Maybe it's in the wall?" "I really don't know what you mean, kiddo. Mom and I haven't smelled anything." "You and Mom?" "Yeah, did you forget? The doctors let me bring her home to recover." We were now standing inside the foyer, the stairs to our bedroom directly to the left. "Go on up and see her, she's been waiting for you." My son's face contorted in a combination of disgust and fear. What the hell is wrong with him? I wondered as I followed David up the steps. When we were at the top, he slowly walked into our bedroom and let out the most bone-chilling scream I've ever heard. "Dad, what the fuck? I mean seriously, what the fuck? Oh my god, why the hell is Mom's body in your goddamn bed? Jesus Christ, I knew you were having a hard time with her death, but this is just sick." "David, what the hell are you talking about?" I asked, slightly irritated, as I sat down beside my wife. I didn't know how she could remain so calm during all this. I gotta go. I'm gonna go. Jesus Christ, I think I'm gonna be sick. Dad, we have to call someone. They'll understand, but you can't leave her here to rot." David started walking towards the stairs. He's lost his mind, I thought. I had better stop him before he goes to call Lord knows who and gets himself locked up in the loony bin. I approached my son and tried to grab his arm, get him to turn around and see that his mother was perfectly fine. But he flinched, hard. He was just so close to the edge of the stairs, and he lost his footing. Even though it only took me a few seconds to get to the bottom of the stairs, there was already a huge pool of blood pouring from his head. "Rest, that's all you need, Davy. Just a little rest. I'll help you get cleaned up and back to your room." When I woke up this morning, the house was quiet. I peeked into David's room, but he was still asleep. Must be tired from all those finals, or maybe the long flight yesterday. I crept quietly into the kitchen, careful not to wake anyone else up. I wanted our big Saturday breakfast to be a pleasant surprise for them. As I cooked, I couldn't help but smile. My wife is alright. My son is alright. I am alright. We caught a mermaid. Submitted by Amma Ackerman. When they pulled up the net, men shouting, salt stinging water splashing in our eyes, and the sharp zipping of the rope from the pulley, we saw her. Dewy gray skin, flesh folding through the gaps in the net, long matted hair tangled in the fish piled up around her. We caught a mermaid. To put this in perspective, I was roped into this. My name is Anthony. I am a broke college student grasping at straws for extra work when my part-time job can't be bothered to call me in. I met a guy at a party who knew a guy, and suddenly I was out doing what I thought was commercial fishing. I did think it was odd how easy I was accepted into the crew, but I just assumed those family businesses and the like were trustworthy. They needed extra hands, and I've heard it's hard work I'm willing to do. Flash forward a couple days of running around doing whatever people screamed at me to do. I found out the movies about the ocean weren't exaggerating about the unpredictable weather. I doubt I'll ever be dry again in my life. When we pulled up that net I thought would be just another full of fish gaping with empty eyes. I saw her and froze, expecting everyone else to do the same, but instead of shock the men cheered and came forward with more rope, thicker and rougher than that I had seen anywhere on deck. The mermaid screeched a terrible piercing noise I felt in my chest. The chaos became a blur, and as I was pushed to the side, I slowly began to realize that I wasn't hired on to help catch fish. When the night settled, I was told to stay up and watch the creature. I was given a handgun that fit oddly in my hands and told to aim for the head if anything happened. And goddammit boy, if you even think about putting a hole through a single scale on that fin, I'll kill you myself. The captain, I think his name was Vance, uttered lowly, face close to mine. With each word I could smell the tobacco he had been chewing for too long in his mouth. The cracks of dryness crawling from his lips up towards his nose gave him a sinister, sickly look as he glared up at me. Right, of course, sir, clumsily I answered, as intimidated as I'm sure the man had planned. I sighed when he turned and finally went below, relaxing a little. The mermaid was still trapped in the net. Hours later, the men had placed her in a large wooden basin full of ocean water, just big enough so her tail wouldn't hang over the side. The mermaid was large, bigger than any woman I had seen. Her skin round and sagging, folding over itself in her cramped prison. She hissed like a snake and thick bile filtered through the rows of jagged teeth in her mouth. This was a monster. I mulled about that thought while I watched the waves fold over again and again, listening to the heavy breathing of the creature behind me when it spoke. I've heard of men. The mermaid's voice was low but feminine, raspy and unused. I stayed facing away from her, just a couple feet from its basin, terrified to turn and look. Hear me? I've heard of your kind, she continued. I've heard what you do for things you value, things like my scales. I coughed and glanced in her direction. The mermaid was reaching towards a shell that rested on the dull wood of the deck, almost close enough to reach. My sisters have seen of your greed and never returned. My mother swallows your gold in return. She chews on your kind that come to her. Her claws dug into the deck and snapped when she pulled at the iron nails. Her blood was red. Your mother? I turned finally, watching her heave in pain as she reached for that small white shell. The ocean. I coughed again. That can't be right, you're obviously a mammal, the ocean isn't alive. The mermaid looked up at me, not caring that I was watching her in her task. The ocean is creation, my mother is all that is left of true darkness in the world of men. Mankind does not like a darkness he cannot manipulate. She created us knowing this. Her eyes were gray, they looked as dead as any fish we had caught on that trip, but they had a sharpness to them. I knew she could see me. I faced away from her again. If you say so. A few minutes passed, and I could feel the itch rise in my throat, the one that had been crawling back to me every time I coughed it out when she spoke again. I hear them, my sisters, they are here to crush your boat. The mermaid raised her voice in excitement and my panic spiked, taking the place of my cough in my throat. Clutching the gun in my hands, I prepared to lift it towards something, anything, as I ran to the side of the boat. I wish I could say I saw 10 or maybe 20 of the same kind of creatures as she. But unfortunately, I saw nothing but a shaky reflection of myself. The quick snapping of rope, and a great heavy splash sounded behind me, and I faltered. I knew she was gone, her and that shell she had been reaching for. And boy, was I afraid to hear about it in the morning. I'm telling you this so I can stay sane. I have never seen the men I met on that boat again. Everyone I tell doesn't believe me, or thinks I'm telling a wild tale. I learned on that day that the ocean is alive. I'm hoping one day that we as humanity will stop hurting it. Or it might just swallow us in return. My house has rules and I think I found out what happens if you don't listen. Submitted by Diama Dragon. I'm not sure where to start, as I'm currently hiding in my laundry room. probably not the best spot, but it's good enough. I guess I'll start with the rules. My house is pretty old, and old houses come with some rules, and the punishment for breaking them is unknown. I guess the people who broke them never survived to tell the tale. There are 9 rules, each one with its own reasoning. 1. Don't touch the vase of yellow flowers downstairs, even if it moves from spot to spot. 2. Never go into the basement. 3. Don't turn on the lights between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m., use a flashlight, or your phone if you need light. 4. If you hear something creak in the hallway upstairs, go downstairs or into one of the rooms and close the door. Look at the floor while you're walking and hold your breath. 5. If someone says "Honey, I'm home," always respond with "Your boss called, he wants you back at the office." And if they start walking up the stairs, swear and yell at them, it's your best bet. 6. If you see more than one person in the mirror and you're alone, do not be alarmed, but for the love of God, do not turn around to look them in the eye. 7. Don't use the bathroom under the stairs. 8. Don't stand on the balcony after 9 p.m. 9. Don't go in the laundry room between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. If you need to wash clothes, there is a washer and dryer in the master bedroom. At first, I thought these rules sucked. They always scared my friends away, and I was forbidden to have anyone over, even just to study. They were unfair. I've now come to understand why they exist, and I wish I never doubted them. Maybe then my friend would be here, playing Monopoly with me, but now I'm sitting here, hiding in the laundry room, at 7:34 p.m. If I die, I'll tell you why. So I'm 17 years old, and my parents are out of town, going to Peru, and I decided to invite my friend Catherine over to play some games and stuff. I mean, most teens do things behind their parents' house, so I thought it wouldn't be a big deal. Me and Catherine sat in my room, on our phones. She knew my house was weird, but I didn't tell her the rules. I figured I would be with her, so if anything happened I would be there to help, right? Well, after convincing her it was too cold to sleep on the balcony, and telling her that we shouldn't mess with the vase, she went to the bathroom. I didn't go in with her, because we weren't really that close. I heard her scream and run out, and she told me. There was a lady behind me, and I turned around, and she screamed at me and she was cut off by her sobbing. I asked her if she looked her in the eye, and she told me she did. I immediately took her arm, but she must have seen the vase and realized it moved, and she took off downstairs. The basement. I almost ran after her, but I realized it would already be too late. I ran to the laundry room, but I could still hear her being ripped apart, and her screams will haunt me forever. She was screaming my name, and then her mom's. I cried into my knees. I can't go on with this. She just stopped, and I can only hope she got out, despite the fact I hear her blood dripping onto the floor. It's so loud. I don't know why, but it's like I'm in the same room as her. I can hear it ringing in my ears. Drip. 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 Footsteps. I hear it outside. I think it hears my typing. It's only 9:03 p.m. I'm scared. Please. Tell my mom and dad I love them. I don't think I'll make it. I have to hurry and upload before it's here. Goodbye, guys.